There we go. Okay, we're officially recording. So hello, everyone. Good morning. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Tori Matichuk. I am a business development coordinator with the County of Bruce, and I work primarily through the Business to Bruce program, which is one of our economic development programs through the county. And so primarily through Business to Bruce, our mandate is to inspire, support, and attract entrepreneurs to Bruce County. We want to offer assistance, guidance, resources, supports, grants, and funding to our entrepreneurial clients. Whether you are looking at starting a business, you're in maybe even just the planning stages or idea stage, whether you're an existing business looking for expansion or different growth strategies. We have a great team of individuals who can help you navigate that entrepreneurial journey. And so today, of course, you are registered for the How to Start a Business, the basics. This webinar, just to let you know, is very basic. It is, as the title suggests, we're looking at just kind of laying out the guidelines of these are the things you really want to consider when you're about to launch a business, when you're in the planning stages of operating or looking to launch, and maybe get ideas generated, etc. So what I'll be doing is sharing a PowerPoint with you. I'd like to I only have one screen here. I am working from home today, of course, due to our lockdown. And what I'll do is share my screen, walk through the slides, and you guys all should have the ability to unmute yourselves, I believe. And since I only have one screen, it might be hard for me to see if someone's raising their hand. So there's a few options. If you are able to unmute yourself, if you do have a question during the presentation, please do feel free to just, blurt out your question, say, hey, Tori, I have a question. Or you can leave your questions to the end of the webinar. We also have on the call with us today one of our co-op students. Logan Lemke is working out of our Lakeshore Hub in Port Elgin, and he is in high school at the Saugeen Shores High School. We're really excited to have him joining us today. So he's a member of our team, and if you'll see Logan's name on the call, you can always he can assist as well with helping out with questions here today. So I hope everyone is able to hear me, see my camera right now. I'm about to share my screen. And so we will get started with the official presentation. And like I said, if you do have any questions, please do not hesitate to blurt your question out, since I can only have one screen here. So I'm hoping that everyone can see the How to Start a Business in Bruce County presentation. Looking for, yes, okay. Oops, I may have just stopped it. Okay, let's try this again. Sorry. Here we go. Okay, so we should be able to see the presentation. So what I'll do is walk through each slide. Again, this is a very basic step guide. And so, as I mentioned, I work for the County of Bruce. So we are an upper tier level of government, and through such, we provide direct services to our entrepreneurs located in Bruce County. So if you live outside of Bruce County, but you're looking at starting a business within our corridors, then you can contact one of our coordinators. So of course, I'm Tori, and I work primarily with businesses in Saugeen Shores and Kincardine. My coworker Janelle Bannon focuses on Brockton, South Bruce, and Huron-Kinloss. And my coworker Paul McGrath focuses on the North Bruce Peninsula, South Bruce Peninsula, and Erin Eldersley. That's not to say that we don't overlap sometimes and work with clients elsewhere, but it just helps us to be able to focus our resources as we do work primarily with each of our municipal reps, chambers of commerce, business improvement areas, and we get to know our general communities better and the entrepreneurial climate. So if you are in one of those locations and you are seeking guidance and assistance, you can reach out to me. And if you'd like to speak with one of the other coordinators, I'm happy to put you in touch with them. So in general, when we are thinking of starting a business, the beginning stages, of course, start with your business idea. Sometimes you might have an idea, sometimes you don't. You might think, I really have an entrepreneurial spirit. I want to be my own boss. I'm creative. I just can't think of what I want to do. If you don't know what you want to do, you can come to us and talk to us. We can help you analyze your strengths, your experience, your interests, your education, what you're passionate about, what you're skilled in, and then help you maybe limit or narrow down the topics, the areas, the industries, the type of work that you might want to do. What you also want to consider is, do you know of something missing in the missing in the world that people might want to buy? Are you sitting there every day, shopping and going, man, I really wish that someone made this or invented this, or I really wish there was this service for this. Maybe there is, but it's not in your geographical area. Maybe you have an idea of how to take an existing service and make it better, make it cheaper, make it faster, make it better quality, you name it. So there's lots to go into thinking about, the type of business and the industry that you want to go into. If you don't know what you want to do, come to us and we'll help navigate that process. If you do know what you want to do, that's fantastic. We're excited. And then you can take that idea, bring it to us, and we'll help on the next stage. One of the next stages of once you think you have an idea is you really want to make sure you have market research to back it up. I have written on here, just because you like it doesn't mean everyone else will. And that's tried and true. If your customers are not willing to pay for your product or service, then you need to analyze, why am I in business? It might be a really great idea, but is someone actually willing to pay for it? That's something you really want to consider. Someone might be really interested in it, but are they going to pay for it? And then you have to actually look at, what will they pay? You might realize that your new product or service has to be sold for $100 each. But meanwhile, through your market research, you discover that your customers are only willing to pay $20. Now, is that a sustainable business model? Not likely. Do you have the option to reduce your costs and overhead and cost of goods sold? If so, great. Can you reduce it to the area that your customers are willing to pay for? You need to start thinking about these things. Another consideration is there a big enough market to sustain your business? And through this, what we're looking at is the number of potential clients who you could actually sell to in your area. Now, again, I'm saying in your area in the sense of, if you're a restaurant in Walkerton, Ontario, are you going to be selling your products to somewhere in British Columbia? Likely not. So you know where your market lies. Now, if you're a restaurant in Walkerton and you realize that your clientele, the products, the food and the ambiance and the branding and everything you cater to is maybe for a client of the ages 20 to 30. Are there enough 20 to 30-year-olds in that area? Do they have enough disposable income to purchase your products? You want to start thinking about, how big is my market? And do I have the capacity? Is it big enough to sustain my business, to keep the revenue coming in and ensure that I'm making a profit? So what we do is we can help you do this type of market research and help you analyze it. It's a big process. You can do secondary research where you are reviewing already existing information, i.e. if you went to websites or reviewed statistics through places like Stats Canada, or we have some great resources through our own market research through such things as tourism and business development. We can help you connect with the Chambers of Commerce to get their feedback. That would be secondary research, whereas your primary research would be you actually going out and through a variety of methods and conducting research. So whether it be, you're holding an information session where you're gathering ideas, where you pay individuals to respond to questionnaires, focus groups, whether you do Facebook advertisements and you do polls, finding out what your potential customers want, what they're willing to pay, what matters to them, who they are, etc. is all very important, because this will not only help you decide if you have a feasible business and a sustainable business idea, but it will help you guide your path to success. So you could establish that I have a great idea, but after market research, I've realized my target market isn't 20 to 30-year-olds. It's actually 30 to 40-year-olds. And it's primarily men. So now I know that through my market research. This is a really important step that I find a lot of entrepreneurs, they skip because they know their product, but they don't know their customer. They don't know their industry. We also mention here too, do you understand where the industry is heading? Through your market research as well, you're going to want to look at the industry itself. So obviously, COVID-19 has impacted many industries significantly and others not as much. However, small business, we know, has often suffered throughout the world, and it's no doubtedly happening in Bruce County as well. That is an external factor that has been a threat to many small businesses in many industries throughout Bruce County. We obviously, 1 year ago, we did not know that this was going to happen, but it is something to keep in mind. That's a potential threat, a global pandemic, the strain. Other things we might want to consider are simple things such as other external threats of weather. For instance, we're in beautiful Bruce County and I'm looking outside my window today and, a foot of snow has fallen. Will weather impact your business? If you are a boat tour business in the summertime and we have 60-kilometer winds, can you go out safely? Can you take your clients out on your boat? No, probably not. So you've lost a day of revenue. You want to think about these types of things. Also, the number of players in your industry, your number of competitors. How is that going to impact you? Competition is good as it can help you keep on your toes, keep ahead of the curve, give you creative ideas, and give you that momentum. Too many competitors can be a downfall, but what can we do to ensure that your brand and your identity and your customer base is strong enough to sustain your clientele staying with you? So lots of things to consider with market research. And again, we're here to help navigate that process. It is a big endeavor to take on, but through working with our team as well as writing a business plan, these are the types of things that can help you have a better understanding of your business idea, the feasibility of it, and the likelihood of success. So once you've conducted some market research and you say, yeah, I'm good to go, I've got my business idea, I'm going to launch. You need to start thinking, what do I need to do? What do I need to purchase in order to launch this business? What are my startup costs going to be? How much money do you need to actually get your business off the ground and start selling your product or service to your customers? Your startup costs are defined as the one-time costs that are vital to the startup. They're not ongoing operational costs. They're not staff wages. They are not purchases that you'll use, that you took place 10 years ago. Necessarily, we get into that, the assets that you've already purchased later. But you want to think about the one-time cost that if you're going to open a restaurant, the equipment, machinery, et cetera, that you need, all the chattels you need to get that business off the ground is really, and that's a high cost endeavor as well, opening a restaurant. You want to jot that information down. Office supplies, stationery, if you're purchasing printers and computers, any type of technology that is going to be used in your operations. Your initial inventory is also very important. If you're purchasing your initial food so that you can make all of your food for your restaurant. If you are purchasing clothing so that you can, you're a retail store and you're selling. Additional marketing and branding is really important. The logo design and creation of your imagery, your messaging, if you're working with a marketing consultant to help develop your branding, how you're going to position your business, developing your initial website or your online sales platform, et cetera. All these types of costs can be considered startup costs. Additionally, things like insurance and accounting and legal fees. If you go to an accountant to get advice, if you purchase your insurance upfront, if you speak with a lawyer in regards to incorporating or through partnership or dividends, you have questions like that. All these types of things are related to the startup of your business, and then you can claim those as startup costs. You can also look at the assets that you already have possession of. Now, this is where I would advise that you do speak with your accountant for the proper process of transferring the assets to the business. So let's say if you had a truck already in place, that it was your personal use, and then you decided to start a landscaping business to which you are using that vehicle. Your accountant can help you transfer that asset to your business and also look at the depreciation and amortization process associated. Do we have any questions? Everyone, I just want to make sure that everyone is still all good. Hearing none, I will continue on. Once you've thought about these startup costs and you've jotted these down, it can be, I usually recommend sourcing quotes or starting to do research on the actual equipment and inventory and et cetera that you might need or you'll need. And the reasoning for that is sometimes we underestimate what the costs are of certain things. So once you have your startup cost or your tally, you want to consider how you're going to fund that startup. So how are you going to actually pay for all of these startup costs? We can look at things like, do you have your cash on hand in your own bank account or TFSAs that you can access, for instance? Or do you have family or friends who are going to be loaning you money? We give a word of caution as well, of course, if you're utilizing money through family or friends. Make sure that you have an agreement signed. Make sure that you have it stated, so and so lent me $10,000. Here's the rate of interest. Here's the payment, repayment plan, etc. Family and friends can offer you money, certainly, but mixing business with pleasure, right? It can unfortunately backfire sometimes. We want to make sure that you and your family or friends are all protected in doing so. Just as if you were to receive funding through a bank or investors, same thing, you'd have an agreement drawn up explaining the process of how this cash is going to be repaid, what the interest is, are there penalties if you cannot repay? Banks are sometimes challenging to receive funding from loans for startups. The reasoning of that is that as a startup business, you can be high risk. They are less likely to take that risk on individuals who may not be able to repay. I've heard from a number of banks too that a business plan isn't as important as their personal equity. So it's something you can consider, although you have a great idea and business plans are definitely required for going to a bank for your potential loan. Ensuring that your personal equity is strong is really important. There's also the option of grants. Now, I mentioned through Bruce County, we do have several different types of grants that we do offer entrepreneurs as well as businesses themselves. So some of our grants go to individual entrepreneurs, meaning it is personal taxable income. And other grants, such as our Spruce the Bruce program, offers facade and signage and revitalization for your buildings in the downtown core, for instance. Those grants go to the business itself. Now, these are non-repayable grants, so very helpful if you are in the startup stage, you are thinking of starting a business in Bruce County. We do have grants available at the moment for startups, so you can contact me about that. In addition, our Spruce the Bruce program will be launching in February, so a few weeks from now. And if you have a business in your downtown core, which is called, we utilize the Community Improvement Plan area, which is a CIP, you may be eligible for facade improvements or signage grants. An additional way to fund your startup business could be through crowdfunding. So I have actually had clients in the past go on to GoFundMe and say, I'm starting a business. Can you help me out? And has raised several $1,000s. So that is an option as well. And we're all still good. Great, getting some thumbs up here and such. So location, very important. If your business is brick and mortar, where are you going to locate? Oh, I hear someone. Do we have a question coming in? No? Okay, someone might have just unmuted their mic. Feel free to pipe up with questions at any point. So your location is very important. It can make or break your business. You want to consider where the best location is for your customers to reach you, not where is best for you. You might I live in Port Elgin. My, outdoor excursion business where I'm taking people on tours might not be best located in Port Elgin. Maybe I locate it in Wyerton or in Oliphant or Lion's Head. Where are my customers? Where is it best for them to reach me? What's the product or service I'm providing? We want to think about the research, your foot traffic, driving traffic, etc. How many cars are driving by? How easy is it to find you? Where do you need to be? You want to consider as well, with many businesses often want to be located in the downtown. Sometimes downtown rental square footage, your lease rate could be substantially higher than on the outskirts of downtown. And you might find downtown more appealing, but is your product or service when you're in the downtown, consider the foot traffic and people driving by. It might be more of a strolling in randomly and purchasing your product. Whereas, are you a destination? And what we mean by destination is if you're going to start selling hardwood flooring and you decide that you're going to go downtown Kincardine. Do you really need to be downtown Kincardine? Think about it. Do you think to yourself, hey, my customers aren't just randomly going to walk in and say, maybe I should buy some new hardwood floor today. It's not a shirt. It's not a gadget. It's not a, maybe new picture that or piece of art that they had unexpectedly planned on buying. They're probably going to have already thought in their head, I'm doing renovations. I want to buy new hardwood floor. Or, I've had this thought in my head for a while. So that's where all of a sudden your business as selling hardwood floor becomes a destination. That individual is going to find where your business is, and they're going to drive to it because they need to go see you. So consider where your location is. It has a big impact. Sometimes you can save cost. Sometimes you can be more appealing to your customers. Even thinking of things like parking and accessibility can play well into the type of industry you're in. This Friday, we will be having our senior planner, Jack Van Dorp from Bruce County, presenting on zoning and bylaws, etc., for Bruce County businesses. Ensuring that your business location is zoned properly is of the utmost importance. Some businesses may be deemed commercial, but they have limited permitted uses. So you want to make sure that if you decide to open your business in downtown Mildmay, but let's say you're a restaurant and you decide you want to put in a takeout window, it might not be zoned for a takeout window. You have to ensure that it's a permitted use. You might not be allowed to have a drive-through. It all depends. So we want to make sure that even with home-based businesses, that is definitely one of the most important, is if you plan on operating out of your home, what type of work can you do from your home? You can't put up signage, for instance, if you're zoned residential. You can't put sign on your lawn saying, when that bright neon light flickering through the night, your neighbors will not like you. You have to consider parking, etc. So you could have a hairdresser that is allowed to operate out of their house, let's say, but they cannot sell shampoo and conditioner or hair products. Why? Because all of a sudden they're deemed retail as well. They're not just providing hair services. So these are the types of things to ensure that you are abiding by. And Jack will go through several different processes. So if you are curious about the process of considering your zones, looking at maybe even severing land, the process, do I go to the Bruce County or do I speak with my local municipality? It does vary on what you're looking at doing. So this Friday, 10 a.m., make sure you sign up for that. I'll send you the link to that as well. And you can learn more about zoning. So the next step that we have is our business structure. The business structure that you register your business under is very important. It does affect your taxation and your legal liability. You could register your business as a sole proprietorship. You could register as a partnership or a corporation. We do work with charities and not-for-profits, but not as much. And so our, let's say, knowledge is more limited in that nature, but we can still assist any of those who are in the not-for-profit sector. So we'll walk through some of the advantages and disadvantages of the different business structures. So as a sole proprietorship, of course, you are the sole owner of the business, you the individual. It's easy and low cost to form. We'll walk through very quickly some of the costs associated. A benefit, of course, is the money that your business makes, the revenue comes in, expenses go out, the profit at the end of the day are yours to keep. That's for you. You don't have to just share decision making with any others because you are the sole owner of the business. You're in charge. You also require minimum working capital to get started up, so you have fewer startup costs. Disadvantages include unlimited liability. So because you, the individual, and let's say your name is John Doe is the sole owner of the business. You now, John Doe, are the business, meaning that you're liable for all debts and obligations. So if there's a problem with the business, it's actually a problem of yours personally because you, John Doe, and the business, let's call it John's Hardwood Flooring, is now liable for that, for any debts and obligations. Because John Doe and John's Flooring are also the same, one and the same, that income earned, all the profits earned, is taxed at a personal rate. Now, if you're profiting $150,000 a year, that's a great income. But guess what? You're being taxed at a personal rate for that income. So it can be very high if you have a very profitable business. And it sometimes can be difficult to raise capital on your own. As I mentioned earlier, banks sometimes have consider a new business, a startup business, high risk. Sole proprietorships can be even more high risk in that it is tied directly to the individual. So there's no separate legal entity. Partnerships can definitely have lots of advantages. They're similar to setup in terms of a sole proprietorship, very easy and low cost. You have more resources to access and capital. So now you have both your John Doe and Jane Doe. They both have their own money and cash flow that they can, or previous cash they can bring into the business. They have more family or friends, or they have more connections to investors or banks. Of course, two heads is better than one. More capacity and skills, better education, better knowledge, more ideas to generate a great business with, and sharing the startup costs. Disadvantages, sometimes, of course, we've all seen it, we've all heard it, finding a suitable partner. There are conflicts that can arise. What happens when those conflicts do arise? There is added risk due to the fact that what your partner does might not have been what you wanted to do, and they cause a major problem, or vice versa. So you have the added risk that you're not, there's the unlimited liability, which is the next point. You're responsible for your partner's actions. So we have here as well, always draw up a lawyer agreement for protection. We incredibly push this on our clients. Don't think because you're friends with the individual or you have a good working relationship or your husband and wife, always have a lawyer draw up an agreement for you. You want to keep yourself and your business protected. So there's a couple different options of partnerships as well. In a general partnership, each partner is jointly liable for the debts. They share in the risks and profits, and they are responsible for anything that their partner does wrong. Limited partnerships, there's a few different options. So someone can contribute financially to the business without actually having involvement or a say in the operations. A general limited partner means that they have unlimited liability, whereas the limited partners only are liable for what they've contributed to the business. So if you have a limited liability partner, you contribute $50,000 and say, I'm not going to be involved in the business. Anything above and beyond that 50 grand is the only thing, or sorry, anything within that 50 grand is the only thing that your partner is now liable for. So through partnerships, it's very important, again, that you ensure that you have an agreement drawn up. We also really encourage that you don't split 50-50. The reasoning for that is because if there is an issue, if there is a decision to be made, and you cannot come to a general consensus of what you're going to do, one partner wants A, one partner wants B, who has the ultimate say? Technically and legally, no one. So you want, even if it's 49-51 and it's drawn up that person with the extra 2% is now going to have that final say, it will help in the long run. And sometimes we have to look at what we are in control of and what we can let slide. So partnerships, of course, can have lots of great advantages and some disadvantages. And finally, if you decide to incorporate your business, there's lots of great benefits of it. Limited liability, you are a legal separate entity from the business. So thus, you, the individual, so John Doe is now a different legal entity than John's Flooring Incorporated or John's Flooring Limited. It's a different legal entity separate. So now the business can enter into its own agreements. It can get loans. It can cease to exist, etc. It is treated as though it's its own individual. Lots of benefits associated with that. So now you cannot be held personally responsible for the debts or legal trouble of the business. However, just to note, even if your incorporated business does get sued, let's say, we need to remember that there still is someone attached to that business, meaning, yes, the business might pay, but the individuals who own, your direct owner or your shareholders, somehow could be responsible. So these are the types of things to speak with your accountant about. There are lower corporate tax rates. So again, if you're profiting $150,000 as a sole proprietor, you're paying your 40% or so marginal tax rate in Canada versus if you are $150,000 profit as a corporation, now all of a sudden you're paying a way less tax rate of I believe 20%. So, and it's capped at a certain amount of profit as well. I can't remember the exact number. It might be maybe several hundred thousand anyways. If someone wants to pipe up, they may know the answer. I apologize for that. And easier to raise capital, as I mentioned earlier, because there's less risk as you're not the individual, it is the corporation. Disadvantages include that it is more expensive to form, organize, and manage. So you do have to register your business to incorporate it, whether it be federally or provincially, and that's a few $100s versus the $60 fee to register a sole proprietorship or partnership. Heavily regulated, lots of government documents required, lots of different type of remittances, and filing your taxes requires a signed certified professional accountant or a CPA to do your taxes. You can't just have your bookkeeper do them or you do them yourselves. There's minutes required, a board of directors, there's lots of detailed record keeping required. So there's more time consuming. And again, filing your taxes now costs more money every year. So you want to consider these types of initial fees, even if you do get a lawyer, which often is a good idea to get the advice of a lawyer to ensure you're setting up your corporation properly through shares and dividends, etc., that you're not missing out on any opportunities or also doing something incorrectly that could cost you in the long run. So higher startup costs. The next thing you want to consider is about your business name. Choosing your business name, really important. Of course, this is your real identity. This is people are going to refer to you as, right? So you want to do some research with it. What type of name are you looking at? You can name your business your own personal name. I could call my business Tori Matichuk. That's it. When I call my business Tori Matichuk, I do not need to register that business name because I am Tori Matichuk and the business as a sole proprietorship is Tori Matichuk. So we are one in the same. Now, if I decided to name my business Tori Matichuk's Restaurant, because I added that name restaurant, that word restaurant at the end, now I need to register that name through the province of Ontario as a sole proprietor so that the province knows and banks know, etc., that Tori Matichuk and Tori Matichuk, the restaurant, are one in the same. So the profit I earn is for me. We're the same entity. We really recommend, of course, not using a name that is operated by a registered corporation. They can, if they want, ask you to not use their name. So if you spend piles of money using a name that is registered in Canada or in Ontario as a corporation, if you use their name and they find out, they can call you and say, hey, we want you to stop using that name because they actually own the rights to that name. If they don't, you can, I guess, get away with it, but we would not recommend that. You want your own brand identity. You can register your name as the same name that another sole proprietor is using. So Tori's Restaurant might be in Port Elgin, but then there might be a Tori's Restaurant located in Edmonton. And that's fine if we're both sole proprietors. There's no one owns that name at that point. But you want to consider too the distance between you. Is it going to affect my branding? Are people going to be confused about the Edmonton business versus the Port Elgin business? Maybe not. But if there's a business in Wyerton that's named Tori's Restaurant and I'm in Port Elgin, that might pose as a problem. So being creative can have advantages as well. You can do a nuance search, which is $8, and that will provide you with the results of all registered corporations in Canada. So that is an option as well if you really are adamant about finding a name that is not being used by a corporation. So once you've chosen your name, if you want to register your business name through the province of Ontario, as I mentioned, if it's different than your own personal name, i.e. my name is Tori Matichuk, I do not need to register that business name. I can if I want, but I don't need to. My business name is Tori's Restaurant. Now I need to register it online. The cost is $60 and that expires in 5 years. A renewal is required. FYI, the province does not call you, they do not email you, they do not send you a letter in the mail saying, hey, you registered your business on January 20th, 2021, it's time to renew it in 2026. Nope, they won't do that. That's your responsibility. So make sure that you have the date written down to re-register that name. Because if you don't re-register that name and then someone goes and decides to take it, especially if they're right in your community, well, that's a downfall. So after you register your name, you get a master business license, and this will include a business identification number, which is a BIN. Your BIN is needed for your banks and transactions. So lots of people come to me asking, how do I register my business name? Because I want to open up a business bank account. Well, your bank is going to ask you for a BIN. They want to see your master business license so they can prove that you are, in fact, a registered business. So very easy to do online. $60 is the fee. Here's the website as well as what the business or the website itself looks like. So it walks you through a number of different areas. And again, it's very easy, it's quite a simple process. But if you are having troubles, you can always contact our team and they will gladly walk you through the process together. So registering your business federally, there's a few different reasons why you would register your business with the government of Canada versus just with the province of Ontario. One reason is if you decide to collect GST or HST from your customers. You must register for HST once you make $30,000 in 4 consecutive quarters, not in one yearly calendar, but in 4 consecutive quarters. So if you open your business July 1st to the following June 30th, if you have made $30,000 in revenue, you need to register for HST. That is not an option. It is mandatory. However, you can voluntarily register for HST when you start up or before you start up. One benefit of registering for HST before you actually start your business is, and by start I mean making sales, if you start purchasing startup products, equipment, etc., vital to getting your business off the ground, and you pay HST on that, and you're registered for an HST, you have an HST number, then you can remit that. So if you start paying thousands of dollars in HST for all of your equipment and supplies, come remittance time, once you start collecting HST, the government will give you back the difference. So there's benefit if you have high startup costs that do include HST. So if you register for HST, you need to actually register your business federally. If you are going to have payroll or employees on payroll, you need to register for a payroll account. If you are going to incorporate your business, you need to register federally. If you are importing or exporting goods, or if you are a charity, these are all different reasons of why you will register federally. Your federal registration, not to be confused with your provincial registration, will give you a business number, not a business identification number, your BN and a program account. So let's say you register you decide you're going to charge HST. You'll all of a sudden get a business number, 123456789. And your GST HST program account number will be the 123456789 and then RT0001. So that's an example. Your payroll account would be the same. It would be business number of 123456789, RT00002, etc. These are important. These are your numbers to identify your business. It's free to register for all program accounts, and I guess I just missed that comment up top here that you must include your GST HST number on all receipts. So if you're confused by that, just take a look at a receipt from your local clothing store or Walmart or grocery store, and you'll see the HST number included on that. So that is a requirement by law that you include the HST number on all receipts. Here is where you can access your federal registrations. So they do mention what you can do, eligibility, what you will need in order to register, so you have all your information on hand before you actually proceed and to register. So as I mentioned, this is free. To register for these program accounts, as they're called, they are free. However, if you go to incorporate your business, as I mentioned, we do advise you speak with a lawyer or an accountant, sometimes both. The reasoning is that your accountant may be able to analyze your projections as a startup business, or your industry, or sorry, your lawyer or accountant, your industry, looking at different types of liability or risks, i.e. if you are a restaurant, you are serving food, which has the capability of potentially food poisoning, or if you're serving alcohol, there are lots of ramifications of that as well. Having more protection as a business, if you're incorporated, will help you in the long run instead of individuals suing you, the person, if you are a sole proprietor. An accountant comes into play, of course, if they look at your projections, or if you're an existing business and you decide you want to incorporate after being a sole proprietorship for several years, let's say, they can look at your statements and say it's advantageous for you to register for sign up as an incorporated business once you reach this amount of profit. It will help you financially. You will save money. You'll save taxes, etc. It can be advantageous for that. Registering federally versus registering provincially. So you must register your incorporated business in all provinces you operate in. So if I open Tori's restaurant in Port Elgin, Ontario, and I incorporate it, I need to register my business in Ontario. It is my choice if I want to register federally. What that will do is protect my name and my business across Canada versus only in Ontario. So Tori's business in Edmonton can all of a sudden open up incorporate in Alberta, and we can both be registered in different provinces with the same name, but federally there's no protection. I heard a bing here. Where do I register for a payroll account? Is it with the CRA or provinces? No, so if you want to register for payroll, this is the website that you'll be going to. If you decide you're hiring employees, you'll go to this website and you'll click on the payroll account that you want to register for. So that's done through the federal. Even though you're located in Ontario, the payroll registration takes place through the Government of Canada opposed to Service Ontario. Does that help? Yes? Okay, great. And I'm just seeing a few other questions here. Joel, my girlfriend and I have two businesses that will be operating under the same corporation. Can we register each business name? Yes. So if you have a corporation that is actually the owner, you're registering a sole proprietorship underneath the corporation. Yes, through the province of Ontario, the Service Ontario website, as here, when you go to register, it will say who is registering for this business. And instead of typing out you, the person, Joel, you'll be typing out that a corporation entity is registering the business name. And we've got a question here. Can you reserve rights to your name exclusively if a sole proprietor? So there might be certain ways around it, and I apologize. I am not. This is a very in-depth conversation of which I'm not knowledgeable about. Is different trademarks and such for names. So if you register your sole proprietor, your name as a sole proprietor, it is not protected. I can use that name. If your name is registered through a corporation, you've incorporated that business name, then essentially, yes, you do have rights to that name. Again, however, since I mentioned in the conversation here that again, if Tori's Restaurants in Ontario and Tori's Restaurants in Alberta, and they're both incorporated, but no one's registered federally, there's no federal protection. However, as I mentioned, there's different types of rights that you can gain to branding and logos and naming, etc. So it is a quite in-depth conversation and a lot of legality behind it, Josh. So something for us to look into. Could you speak about how to convert sole proprietor business to corporation, pros and cons? So as if, again, I kind of mentioned a little bit about the process is to become a corporation, if you have been acting as a sole proprietor for a while, I would recommend speaking with your lawyer and accountant. It is worthwhile. They are experts in that area, and they can weigh out the pros and cons of doing so or requirements. They may tell you it's not advisable to do so or it's not required. If you do want to do it, you can simply register that name. It would just be incorporating here. Just if you take your sole proprietorship name and you do a nuance search to ensure that it's not being used by another corporation, and you decide to register that business and incorporate it across Canada or in the provinces you're operating in, an easy process in that sense. But the pros and cons, again, they're individual between a sole prop and an incorporation. It's really dependent on you. And again, I would recommend speaking with a professional in that regard. So we do speak as well about registering in all the provinces you operate in. So again, if I'm selling a product in Alberta, if I'm shipping, a product to Alberta from Ontario, I'm not operating in Ontario. I'm just selling a product there. I don't need to register there. However, if I open up a second restaurant in Alberta, then yes, I do need to register my business in that province as well. So sometimes it makes sense to just register federally, and then you have the protection across Canada. So after you incorporate, you get an Articles of Incorporation. You automatically get a business number. So what happens is, let's say if you decide to incorporate your business from the get-go, you get a business number, and then you decide, 3 months later, I'm hiring my first employee, and I need to register a payroll account. Now you already have that business number, so you're going to end up going to this page and registering through You have your business number, you have your identification and all your information. So now the government is going to know that Tori's Restaurant Incorporated is registering for a payroll account. So now they know it's all connected. When you incorporate your business, a nuanced name search is required. You cannot complete an incorporation process unless you complete the nuanced name search. And this, of course, is to avoid having multiple businesses operating with the same name if they are incorporated. I'm just going to make sure, got some okay, thanks is good. Okay, so regulations, permits, and bylaws. So it's really important, of course, that you understand your industry. Every industry is different. Every profession is different. If you're an electrician, what type of work are you legally allowed to complete? Commercial versus residential. You may not have the certain licenses in order to do wiring in someone's home, but you can on someone's commercial property. You need to know these things. If you're a restaurant, what type of safety and health occupational health and safety, etc., licenses or inspections do I need to open my restaurant? I cannot open until I have Grey Bruce Health Services come and, or through Public Health, come and look at my restaurant and ensure I'm able to open, etc. If you're an esthetician, do you have the proper equipment for sanitizing, etc.? You need to make sure that you understand your own regulations. So not all industries have regulations, which is very interesting too when you think about something like we spoke of aesthetic services. So whether you're a hairdresser or an esthetician doing nails and waxing, there are regulations associated with that. However, a microblader who's doing semi-permanent tattooed eyebrows and lip liner, etc., there's no regulations to that industry yet. So that can be a risk in the sense of the industry we mentioned earlier through market research, a risk to the industry in that people may have an uncertain feeling of potential health hazards due to that. However, when you are operating a business with limited types of health and safety regulations, it is great to be able to promote yourself that you have done the courses, you have the training, you have the knowledge and the education, and you've gone above and beyond to ensure to your clients that I am safe, I am doing things correctly, I am sanitizing my equipment, I'm not breaking laws, but I have gone above and beyond even though there are no regulations. So it can go a long way. Again, we're trying to protect the health and safety of our public and our customers. Different types of permits as well and bylaws, they are typically, a lot of them are contingent on the municipality to which your business is operating in. So if you want to open up a food truck, you can't grab your food truck and park it in downtown Southampton on High Street. There is no bylaw stating that you're allowed to do that. If you want to do that, you'll need to get a permit. But the permit to operate your food truck in Southampton, you'll go through the town of Saugeen Shores and you'll fill out the application and pay the small fee to do that every year. But they have bylaws telling you where you're allowed to set up. So you cannot set up downtown High Street, but you can set up at Denny's Dam. You can set up at this at a certain complex with baseball, etc. There's certain places. So you want to ensure that you are following all bylaws through your municipal and through provincial and federal bylaws. So even like signage, for instance, if your business is located on a commercial highway, Ontario Highway, you might not be able to put up a sign. You might actually need to get a permit to do so, versus if you are located just on your regular downtown core. Even then, if you want to put up a sign, a perpendicular sign, let's say a blade sign, that's perpendicular to your business, projecting sign, lots of different names they call them. You need to follow the laws associated with that. The municipalities each have their own bylaws. You're only allowed to have this size. It has to be this many meters above ground. It cannot go this far in the air. It cannot have neon lights, etc. always do your due diligence and your research before making big purchases so that you do not waste your time nor your money. We want to keep your money in your pocket. So another great tool here, thing to consider when starting a business is sourcing your business advisors. As I mentioned several times throughout this presentation, lawyers and accountants go a long way. I am not a lawyer. I am not a CPA. I cannot give you legal nor financial advice. That is beyond my knowledge or my abilities. It's worth it to pay experts to help you. They can help save you money in the long run and help you avoid mishaps or potential errors. They can help you find new ways of revenue generation or dealing with any type of issues. Having a bookkeeper on hand, there is an upcoming seminar. I can't remember the exact date here. Maybe Logan can take a look at the date. It's called Trying to Save Money Will Cost You. So Nicole Teeter is going to walk you all through the importance of trying to say, I'm going to do it all. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to work 18-hour days, and I'm going to not only make my product, but I'm going to sell it. I'm going to market it. I'm going to work with my clients. I'm going to do my bookkeeping. I'm going to clean up and be my custodian, and I'm going to do the inventory, and I'm going to work with my employees, and then you're exhausted. And what took you 5 hours to do might take your bookkeeper 15 minutes to do. It's worth it to spend the money and hire people to help you, right? Don't go about this alone. I read a really great article several months ago about how the most successful business owners and entrepreneurs never did it on their own. They always reached out, whether it was through hiring consultants, hiring employees, seeking mentors, seeking business advisors such as these professionals. They all got help. Don't go at it alone. And that's what we are here for too, is to help you. As I mentioned, I am not your lawyer or accountant, but I might be able to tell you when you're trying to or struggling through an area and I say, you know what, you need to speak with someone about this. Just getting that advice there can go a long way. Having a good relationship with your banker goes a long way too, right? So wherever you decide to open up your business bank account, and also your insurance agent. We'll walk through a couple of these details here. So through bookkeeping, although I recommend hiring a bookkeeper to help you out, it is very important that you, as the business owner, have a simple understanding of bookkeeping. Doesn't mean you need to do all of the bookkeeping, do all the journal entries, do reconciliations, and file your taxes, but you need to understand the process enough that you know the financial feasibility and state of your business. You need to keep your organized records for a minimum your records for a minimum of 6 years. There is also, Logan can type in the chat as well, about when our tax time for small business session with the CRA is taking place. They will walk through the requirements of your financials so that all of your revenue and expense receipts, so that they're not coming to audit you. You need to keep paper and electronic sales receipts and your expense receipts. You can categorize them as well, and again, the CRA agent will walk you through that, but there's ways to categorize it based off of month as well as based off of the actual area of expense, i.e. inventory purchase versus a marketing expense versus a training expense. They all fall under different areas for filing your taxes. Payroll details, again, all of the deductions coming off of your payroll for your employees, taxes collected and paid, etc. You need to collect all of these. Very important too. If you decide to open up a business bank account, or if you decide to keep your personal account as a sole proprietor and put all your money from your business in your personal bank account, one thing is to ensure that you keep all receipts for all expenses. So if the CRA comes to you and says, hey, this amount was taken from, you said your purchase at Walmart was this date, this amount, prove it. You don't wonder, wait a minute, was that actually for groceries? you don't know because you didn't keep your receipts, or you don't know because you didn't highlight the areas. It's good to have a business bank account, but also if you are collecting HST, remember that's not yours to keep. You need to give that back to the government. So if you collect $100 from your employee, or sorry, your customer, but they pay you $113, 13 of those dollars you should have in your journal entry. You could have a separate two different types of accounts. One is strictly for HST, so you know that that's not actually your money and it's not part of your cash flow statement. So we're talking about this again, dependent on your business structure. I've actually just went through this. Yes, so please keep your personal expenses away from your finance or your business expenses to the best you can. It does go a long way. If you are going to a store to make purchases personally, make it two separate purchases. Pay with make a, I guess, just a separate purchase in general. Something also to include in your startup is insurance. I am not an insurance expert either. This is a whole profession for a reason. If whatever business you are starting, go to your local insurance agent, who you have your car or house or whatnot under. Talk to them about your business, your industry, what you're going to be doing. They will recommend what's best for you. Lots of different types of insurance. Whether you want insurance for the owners, partners, and employees, you can pay for life and disability and partnership insurance, so they're all protected. You can pay for your property and earnings and contents and vehicle insurance. You can also pay for liability purposes, which is the basic we recommend. Make sure you have general liability insurance. No matter what you're doing, you need protection. You can also have product insurance, professional insurance, and errors and omissions. So let's say if you are a consultant and you make a recommendation to your client that they should do this and it fails on them, and they go, oh my word, I just lost millions of dollars because of your recommendation, you can be protected through errors and omissions. But really important, think about the types of equipment you have in your shop or in your storefront or inventory. If there is a theft or a fire, how are you protecting your assets? WSIB, again, this I've actually heard from lots of clients that WSIB is fantastic to work with. Calling them is so easy. They give you the information they need. It's all pertaining to the industry you're in and the type of employees that you have, the type of work they're doing. So if you hire an employee, within 10 days of hiring them, you need to register them for WSIB. There are certain industries that do not require WSIB. You as a sole proprietor, get to decide if you want to register yourself for WSIB. So for instance, if you are a consultant and you primarily are doing computer work and you somehow break your arm on the job, are you still able to conduct your work? Probably. Whereas if you are a sole proprietor and you are a general contractor and you break your arm on the job, can you still conduct your work? If the answer is no, you need to now realize that you've lost all capability of generating income and revenue, and you now have no payment coming out because you did not register for WSIB. So something really important is to protect yourself, especially as a sole proprietor. Remember that as a sole proprietor, you are not an employee of your business. You are not paying yourself through a payroll account. You, the sole proprietor, are the owner, meaning that the income that your business earns is your personal income. If your business profits $1,000 in the month of January, you, as the business owner, sole proprietor, get to decide, do I keep this $1,000 to myself and pay for my groceries and my mortgage and clothes for the kids? Or do I reinvest $400 back into the business so I can buy more inventory and keep $600 for myself? Or do I put all $1,000 back into the business? That is up to you. At the end of the day, however, note that the money your business generates is your income. Whether you put it back into the business or you paid your taxes or you paid for your mortgage with it, because you are a sole proprietor. So just something to note. As well, if you are hiring employees, it is very, very important that you are familiar with the Employment Standards Act. This is through the Province of Ontario, Ministry of Labor. Several months ago, or a few months ago, sorry, they did a presentation. They usually do a few for us a year on the Employment Standards Act. There's often updates depending who is our premier, and they'll make changes such as minimum wage amounts and vacation leave amounts, bereavement days, etc. There's lots of laws that you must follow. It is important that you, the owner of the business, are aware of what your employees are entitled to, what their rights are, but also what your rights are and what you're entitled to as the owner or the operator of the business. So if anyone's interested in learning more about the Employment Standards Act, we can definitely plan another session. Unfortunately, those events are not recorded due to the fact that they change in nature regularly. And leading up to our last few slides here, the creation of a business plan goes a long, long way. I hope a number of you are registered for next Wednesday. I'll be presenting on the general components of a business plan. Business plans are created not to be sitting on a bookshelf and collecting dust. They're meant to be actionable, and they are your roadmap to success. What are you going to do? What do you want to do, and how are you going to do it? Not just why you're doing it. You want to know how you're going to do it. So we actually have developed I'm just going to highlight here, a very basic plan that we actually call a lean business plan, and it focuses on basic areas to make sure that you understand how you're operating your business, what it means, what it's different, what your unique selling proposition is, etc. So there's some of these basic points that we'll be highlighting in the presentation on Wednesday, the 27th. However, sorry, I'm skipping around slides here. The lean canvas is another topic I'll be presenting on Monday, the 25th. Yes, 25th. So this is a really, really great tool. And the reason I'm presenting on this before the actual business plan itself is this is more of a visual document. As you can see, there's 9 different areas that you're going to highlight. It's supposed to be quick and to the point, take you 20 to 30 minutes to fill out so that you have a quick snapshot of how am I going to run my business? Do I really understand these key components? It's a really great exercise, one of my favorite things to help clients walk through because I've never seen their wheels turning and thoughts happening so much than walking through the lean canvas. A really great tool. Hope you guys can join me for that on Monday. So I'll walk through those. Here's another idea. The business model canvas actually is what the lean canvas was created from. So this is the original business model canvas, which is, as you'll see, slightly different to the lean canvas. I am told that the lean canvas is more focused on startup businesses, which is why I'm focusing on it, whereas the business model canvas often focuses more on an existing business. And so those are some of the areas that we also encourage people once you think about starting a business. Your business plan is supposed to help you realize the areas that you may have forgotten about or the areas that you are struggling with. Again, I'm looking at the word industry right now. That is often one of the biggest areas I find people don't understand or they don't have enough knowledge on what is their industry in. If you were to tell me right now that you're about to embark on making, point and shoot cameras, I'm going to go, why? That's a thing of the past right now. There might be a tiny, tiny market for it, but everyone's got their cell phones in their pockets now that have better cameras than my point and shoot camera ever did. So a dime a dozen, yeah. We got to think about these types of things. And also your marketing side. Also very important, you can have the best product in the entire world, but if you don't know your customers and if you don't know how to sell to them and you don't know what they are willing to pay, you might not survive. So it's really important that we have a game plan and a strong understanding. And this is our first workshop workshop of our winter series. So it's supposed to be kind of if you look at our entire listing, you'll see a really great variety, kind of in the order that we think you might want to walk through the topics and areas of focus. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now for a moment. And that is the end of my presentation here. Curious if there are any questions or comments or general discussions. If you are interested in unmuting yourself or typing in the chat box, feel free. I just realized my camera has been turned off. I might turn this back on, add some. No questions. Interested in the Employment Standards Act? Fantastic. Logan, we can throw that on our list. It is definitely an important one. You want to make sure that you have a great understanding of how your employees, what you need to do, what you can't do. Christine, this was a really great session. Thanks. You're very welcome. Awesome. What is the advantage of hiring an employee versus a contractor? Yes. So Wsib, this is a very popular kind of question and topic. So the government in Canada actually lays out a very strict guidelines of what the difference of an employee versus a contractor is. It is very important that you do not hire a contractor and treat them as an employee. And what I mean by that is, you hire, let me say this. If you hire a contractor and you're saying you need to be here Monday to Friday, 8 to 4, here's all the equipment you're going to use, you set their hours, you provide them with the details, and you're essentially controlling them, but you're not paying them as an employee, they can actually go to the government in Canada, say, or Ministry of Labor, say, I'm being treated as a contractor, but I'm actually an employee. Meaning you're not paying into their CPP, their EI, you're not paying into potential pensions or other advantages through benefits. So you can actually, if that individual were to win that case, you would actually have to go back and pay them all of those payroll deductions that you hadn't paid them. There are huge advantages, of course, to not hiring an employee in the sense that you aren't paying into their CPP and EI. So thus, I think it's maybe around 18 to 20% or so that you might pay in addition to the employee's wage. So something to consider is that you're saving all that money if you hire a contractor. But again, it's a very fine line. And then you think about a contractor could just cancel on you and you're gone, whereas an employee may have more, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm blanking on the word. Interest, I guess, in staying. They might be more faithful to you and staying on. So it's definitely something that the Ministry of Labor can highlight too, is just maybe even the difference. I can also include a document or a link to a document that states the difference of an employee versus a contractor, so you understand you're making the right decision.
Hello, Tori. I just want to say something here.
Okay.
Yeah. So thanks for covering that. That is an employee-employer relationship kind of scenario. However, what I would like to know is if I have a task to do, for example, grading my property using a backhoe. So in that case, would it make sense if I just hire a contractor to do the whole grading on my property, or I go and hire a grading operator, like a backhoe operator, and put him in the payroll and have him do the grading work if it is a substantial amount of work? So where do I draw the line? Which would make sense to me. So that's the context I am referring to.
Yeah, so in that case, it's a part-time thing. It's temporary. It's a one-time. We'll hire consultants and contractors to help do work for us, for instance, through market research or branding materials. So it's understood that we're saying, here's the job we need you to do, here's the timeline, but it's when they work on that project, is up to them. They're using their own equipment. In this case, you have a backhoe operator. They come and you know that there's a deadline. You're setting that in the contract, laid out. I'm paying you this. Here's when we need this done by, etc. They know they're coming on certain days that works for them, etc. So again, it sounds like that would be a contractor type position. Yes. It's not a even a temporary position to hire. I hope that helps a bit, Asif, but you can also take a look at the link I'll send in the email.
Yeah, I actually did a cost analysis. To hire an employee would cost less if that employee would work for you in doing those tasks versus hiring a contractor who would actually charge you a lump sum, which is more than what an employee would do. So that's what I kind of want to know.
Okay. Yeah, and again, it's very specific. There might be advantages and disadvantages, of course, of both. You have more control, of course, over your employees and the work they do, et cetera. But of course, there's cost savings sometimes by hiring a consultant or a contractor. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
No problem. Okay. We have a question, Douglas. You made mention of market research. What resources does your team provide for understanding target markets nationally and internationally? How granular is the information you provide? So, Douglas, I would say that we can help in providing some great links and resources to information reports. A lot of our focus is on the local landscape, as we do typically find that a lot of our entrepreneurs focus their not only their operations but their sales, whether they're brick and mortar or they're providing services. It is local, so a lot of our research does work locally. Now, that's not to say that we can't help you in finding more wide scale information pertaining to target markets and that information, demographics, of course, and the communities makeup, things like even the tax bases to the growth, to the industry, et cetera. So we can help provide that research. What I typically do is help provide with the general links or information, and then the entrepreneur would walk through that to analyze that to their best ability. So I hope that that helps. Do you have any specialists to support rapid scaling? I believe you're mentioning too about like maybe through growth strategies, Douglas, by rapid scaling, you're meaning?
This will be easier. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
In a consumer product manufacturing context, you start to put it online. How do you, when you're starting with one or two people, low original investment or startup investment, but if you put it online, it's like anything, it could go very quickly. So it's better to plan for that than to unfulfill orders and disappoint customers. So is there, and whether that's a consulting engagement with someone else, but just wondering kind of pre-planning, because that's the best case scenario, but I'd rather plan for it and accommodate for that than to put something out there and be caught wildly disappointing and unfulfilled. So just kind of wondering.
Yeah, definitely having your action plans and understanding of growth, where you might end up, and the resource planning in that sense. You mentioned employees, inventory, machinery, size, square footage. If you reach that certain goal, what resources do you need, from people to equipment, et cetera? That is definitely very important. So through that scaling, you might know, I don't know your exact industry or if you're operational right now, but if you are, you understand your industry quite well and how it could grow, but in the sense of maybe projecting that for preparing for that growth could definitely, like, there's consultants who certainly could help with that, more hands-on to the specific manufacturing industry, because of course that is very precise. There's also the opportunity of looking at mentorship programs. Of course, someone who's lived it and breathed it, they're going to have those do's and don't do's or suggestions, but also through growth, your accountant, especially if you find an accountant who specializes in the industry you're in, they can have great recommendations for what to do, how to prepare, the timing of when you're going to want to hire things. They just, even though that's not what they do necessarily, they do often, they're looking at the books all day long and they understand how a business is growing, and they can give you the different types of benchmarks to how a business did experience that growth. I hope that helps a bit.
Okay. Yeah. So does your group find or have access to those mentoring resources?
Yes, definitely. We do. And so actually we are a partner through Grey County has a great new initiative called Catapult Grey Bruce, and they have local mentors. I'll include the link as well. And you can sign up if you're a business in Bruce or Grey County to receive mentorship. So we also do have directly through Bruce County a variety of mentors. However, I think that this program is really great. It's a little bit more precise and hands-on. It might be able to offer some great resources. But if you do have an accountant or you don't, I would recommend seeking one who might specialize in your area, and they can help with that growth strategy and planning.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? If there are none, then certainly we'll get a follow-up email to you with this recording today, and as well as the PowerPoint. Again, it's basic. It's just meant to be that idea generation. Make sure you're kind of checking off those boxes. And if you have questions upon re-reviewing or re-watching this webinar, please reach out to us. Again, you can reach out directly to me or my coworker Paul or Janelle pertaining to the area you're operating in. If your business is outside of Bruce County, just if anyone happens to be on the call who is outside of Bruce County, note that there's other great small business enterprise centers that do operate similar programs and do offer resources, supports, and grants to entrepreneurs in other counties. So whether you're in Perth or Wellington or Grey County, for instance, Simcoe, doesn't matter, or even if you're all the way in a different province, lots of great resources for entrepreneurs. They should be local to you. So I really do appreciate all your time, and Kristen, very happy to that you enjoyed this seminar today. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and we'll get you a follow-up information shortly here. Great. Thanks so much, everyone.